incoming.
Hello everybody, good evening. We are here at Puhonua Opuna at the hub. Gonna do a live eruption update. Also, before we start to do the eruption update, I'd like to say, send out my condolences to good friend Brother Bronson, Kīlauea. Sad, man. And at this time they are tracking him down in Kona, so hopefully they can get him tonight, and I pray to God that they get him tonight. But aloha oi, man, good brother. Met him quite a while ago, but I also was talking to him like last week. Short story, last week I was at the Papaya Farms Road blockade down there, and he was working down there. Talked to him for almost an hour, over an hour, talking stories, all kinds of stuff. Good brother. And one thing I'm gonna tell you about this brother is one of the most humblest brothers that ever met in the police force. And there is tons of humble brothers out there in the police department, tons of good guys out there from the police department, and this is one of the good guys. This is one Hawaiian, and a wife and 3 kids, and very humble. And just like to say aloha oi to him, and aloha to the family. So just to start off this eruption update with that, but on my now we're gonna go into the eruption. So this morning, lava in the Pohoiki area, and sounds like your prayers, everybody's prayers have been being answered. It's still moving south, but had slowed down significantly. There's the lava is not moving as much as it was the previous days, but it is less than it is about a quarter mile away from the boat ramp. So the lava is kind of slowed down a lot, but it's still pumping in that area, and right near just south of Ahalanui, where this place called Kahilihiliula Point, where Campbell Pond was, still pumping in that area, still pumping strong in that area. But as far as the southern movement, it has slowed down significantly, but it's still moving. Also, there's a huge sandbar that it created. Right, it's halfway through Bowles surf spot. So it's like, again, there's a huge sandbar there. So the ocean entry is still about a 2.5 mile wide ocean entry, with a lot of minor spots where it's entering the ocean. So it's still very much active. Fissure 8 is still pumping lava, and we're gonna talk about that with Phil. Philip has more information about that, and the pulse, the new surges and pulsation. That's what they're calling it now, pulsation. We've been saying pulse and surges, but the new saying by USGS is pulsation. I like that. So, and also we have Andrew Dunn's going to give some information about the ocean entry also. And we have another friend of mine, Kiko. He's going to talk to us about the Hawaiian chants and Hawaiian legends of stuff that happened almost similar to this, what's happening now. So without further ado, we're going to give it out to Mr. Philip.
How's it, everybody?
Dr. Phil. What's up, Doc?
How's everyone doing?
All right. So what's the new development today?
Yeah, you covered it. You can show you guys the graphics. Everyone always wants to see the map. So here's a map was just released by USGS today at noon, and you can see down over here, this area is what's different about this map. So here's showing a quarter mile, or they were saying 0.3, pretty close movement of the flow towards Pohuiki, right along that shoreline, just like you said, Ikaika,
Yep.
a few days ago, yeah. But the plume actually swung back around. So it seems to me like it kind of moved most of that way during the surge. With a surge, it seemed to me like maybe it took something like, we talked about this yesterday, I talked about it yesterday, maybe it might take something like 12 hours for it to go all the way from Fisher 8 all the way down to the ocean. And we saw like that like an overflow tongue of lava that was kind of above the channel over here.
Right.
And it kind of pushed the ocean, a big plume started, and it kind of spread out in this direction. And then the photographs from this morning showed that it actually got a little bit farther, but it wasn't as active right over there. It was more active, more in the area of Halanui right in there.
Yeah, right by Kahilihili Nu'ula.
Yeah, so it seems like it surged and then kind of backed off a little bit, yeah. And then some of the photographs that are posted by USGS and other guys today are actually showing the channel looking like it's not empty, but it's definitely a lot lower and a lot cooler in that downhill section from Pu'ukapoho down towards the ocean. But we just had our collapse earthquake event about 4:30 today, and we have reports from Leilani that the surge came in about 5:30, so it took about an hour again. So once again on the fast end. The reports from our sources who are watching it in there said it lasted about an hour 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, those
That's
surges.
how long it lasted. Yeah, so not this pulsation, like that we've been showing goes up and down every 5 minutes or so, something like that. But kind of just steady raging for that hour 20, and then at the end of that, then showing that pulsation is starting to occur again, right? So there's definitely two different things going on, like we've been talking about, and trying to kind of understand them as separate things now, right? So there's that kind of pulsation that's happening kind of all the time, and maybe when a surge is happening and someone's just coming out, you don't notice it so much. Maybe that's why we were noticing before when it was really raging a lot more too. So looking at the webcam, let me pull it up here. Find my spot. Webcam. There it is. So I don't see any overflows. Looking kind of over here, looking kind of on the back side, I don't really see anything that's obvious. Back over here on the Malama side, I don't see anything obvious as far as overflows right now. But we'll have to wait. We know that Scott Wilson is flying tonight, and we'll get photographs after he lands and has time to send them to us. We'll see if that happens before our broadcast ends. If not, we'll share them later. But it looks like this one is, from what I can tell, is not causing as much big overflows.
Right.
Partly because the channel might have been so empty. Both USGS and everyone else we talked to is reporting the channel being a lot emptier than before.
Right.
So that could well be it, what's going on there. Even though it's actually surging, there's enough space in there to hold all that much extra lava, which is good. There is the bottleneck point still back up a whole crater, right, where it kind of turns to the south right there,
yeah.
and it's still kind of ponding, where you guys have been seeing all that big glow for many nights in a row. That area still kind of concerns me. When a pulse reaches there, what actually happens? Is it going to go back in a channel that's like starting to drain? Is it going to go back in the previous channel that drained? Is it going to break open towards the north and put, toward the Cinder Mountain? Or is it going to break to the south, like to the side of the other flow? Like, it seems like all those things are kind of possible. Not until we see the photographs from the air, which this webcam doesn't cover, will we actually know what's going on at the farther down area. But the first area that's kind of threatened would be the area of Leilani itself. We have had confirmations that there was a structure on Nohea Street burned down. Yeah. Finally, there was a photograph came through that today. That kind of thing is what we'd worry about for the first surge, and that doesn't seem to, from what I can tell here, it doesn't seem like there's as much splashing over the edge as that. So I think this one, maybe skip that. It's kind of been almost every other one has been putting out a huge amount that kind of spills over. Not really sure why that is. I'm not sure if that's a real pattern or if it's just coincidence either. But that's how it's kind of played out the last few days. So yeah, that's the status of the surge. We're kind of wait till till that gets down to the ocean. So we're all kind of happy with the status of Pohuiki right now. But the danger is that we get that surge coming through the system one more time, and then when that surge reaches the bottom of the lava channel down by Pohiki again, it might actually go over top of that old channel, it might spread out again, it might go to the side and go straight for Pohiki, it might go on the other side and go totally away from it. It's just super unstable there at that bottom part of the channel, you know, from that part from Pu'ukapoho down towards the ocean. So that's why we don't know when a surge comes through what's going to actually happen there. Right. So we're not out of the woods yet, you know, we're kind of, you know, we got plot another day, but we still got to wait and see how the thing develops. And it's still too unstable to really say, oh, it's going to do this or do that or stay here or stay there. We, you know, we just got to keep praying for it.
Yeah. So, you know, these pulsations that is happening at Fisher 80 is pretty much, you know, that's the main development of what's happening with the lava moving towards Kapoho. And some of the pulsations are significant. There's so much lava moving through the system that we do have some breaches and overflows. But when we do have these overflows, every time these overflows go over, it builds up the perch wall of the lava river. So now it has to go higher and higher and higher because of the walls are increasingly getting higher.
Yeah, but the other thing that we noticed a lot from almost all the footage you can see if you want to ground also is that when the levels are really far down, the edges of the channel are collapsing inwards too. And then when a surge comes back through, it's actually pushing that stuff out of the way. So over time, every time that happens, the channel is getting just a little bit wider and wider and wider too, right? So if it's getting that much wider, then maybe that might be one reason it can hold more and it's not going over the top as much also, right? Because, you know, there's a lot of change happening in all dimensions there. Kind of hard to keep track of really what the volume really is because of all those variables going on in there.
Right.
But that's good because if it holds more lava, then it doesn't spill out over into Leilani, for example. Yeah.
Can we look at you know, the tilt meter?
Yeah, let's look at the tilt meter.
We're gonna look at the tilt meter. So we had some fluctuations at Pu'uo'o also.
Yeah. So well, the main pattern is still being sourced from Hale Mau up here, right? So that's our same pattern. We had, there's our event that just happened at 4:30, and all this kind of extra lines coming off of the tilt plot before the big event are all earthquakes happening as well. And some of these are actually ringing through the whole system, right? And that's kind of where the Pu'uo'o plot comes in useful because we don't believe that there's as much magma under there as there used to be. I mean, it's clearly still moving through there underneath that area to get to down here. But anything that's ringing the pipe, let's call it, underneath there is probably ringing the pipe over here also, right? That's probably, you know, like the very first order basic assumption we can work with, you know, and kind of try to see if that's true or not. And you can see that the big events definitely come through, but there also are several other events that come through. Some of them are kind of small, but some of these are actually, you know, not that small. I mean, a lot smaller than this one, of course. But we wonder if these kind of events could also be giving a tap to the system and might be causing extra pulsations, or we've heard reports of these surges possibly happening more than once a day. It's kind of hard to divide what's a surge and what's a pulse maybe because some of the surges are not as big as the other ones. Right? Yeah. The ones where it all spills out all over the place, it's obvious that's a surge. But if the level is just rising and falling, is that where to draw the line? That's kind of where it gets tricky. Yeah, and why a lot of us are probably confused about the difference between these things, yeah, like how often they happen. So, but yeah, that's something, you know, kind of look into because we did have, you know, reports of pulsations happening earlier, you know, corresponding to some of these. And if you look at these kind of like that spike right there, that corresponds to our typical where we're having this kind of step down in our pattern of tilt at the summit as well. So that's interesting. I don't know, we can't tell you why that is, but that's an interesting association there. And it was about 2 hours after this happened that we had a report of a small surge happening in Leilani as well. So we're wondering about that connection actually happening there too. And then, you know, as far as our pattern goes, I didn't calculate the time, but we were in a longer end once again, you know, so we're over our average. So now we've had 2 in a row that are kind of longer than normal, after having had several that were kind of back in our 31-hour average. So that's possible. A change 2 in a row is definitely better than a one-off kind of event. So if the duration of these collapses is getting, I mean, the interval between them is getting farther apart, then maybe it's one of the signs we're looking for the thing stopping, slowing down its collapse. But we just gotta wait and see. Just 2 points in a row is not enough to come to that conclusion. So that's our tilt. As far as the dropping into the caldera, so I mean the thing is still going spreading, contracting horizontally, coming together as it sinks in, like kind of slumping in like that. But also mostly going down, right? That's what this plot over here actually shows. Over here, we're still dropping down and going down, 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 down. So the inner part of the crater floor is still dropping. Doesn't seem like it's slow at all, and that's something that's showing that we haven't got to the to the end of that stage of it yet. So we're still getting mixed signals. It's hard to say what's going on. We've been talking about how the changes in the volcano can kind of express over several days. So it takes a while to really see and see how a change manifests all the way through, right?
Right.
So that's our tilt update.
All right. So Andrew.
Hello, everybody.
So how's the ocean entry?
So the ocean entry, according to the USGS update, is approximately 3.7 miles wide from one end to the other, and we've seen it out there while we're on the boat, and it is really wide. Fortunately, there's been a little slowdown on the lava, that finger heading towards Poho'iki, and like Ikaika was saying, it's probably about 0.3 miles away, and hopefully it stays
to the ramp.
To the ramp, correct. So hopefully it stays, at that distance and doesn't come any closer. It all depends on that, those pulsations, the surging, like Philip was mentioning earlier.
All right, that's all.
That's it. That's all I got, guys.
And lava boat tours are still active.
Still active, yes, correct.
All right, Dorian. Dorian, this is a lava update. If you really want to know what's going on with the police chase and all that kind of stuff, go check out Big Island Thieves, because we don't want to share any information to help the fugitive, so we're keeping it quiet, so we really don't know what's going on. Dorian, that's my friend Dorian. He just wanted to be very sarcastic and think he's smart.
You guys can check Hawaii Tracker too. They've been posting about that all day too.
Hawaii Tracker too. They've been posting about the police the investigation. So go check them out. For us, we're just gonna stay with the lava flows. But we have somebody, Dorian. Say hi to Dorian.
Sup, Dorian?
So we have another special guest with us today, and our friend Kiko. He's a encyclopedia. He knows everything about.
There's plenty.
Yeah.
Come on, stop that.
But here's Kiko.
Aloha.
Aloha, Kiko. And what we've been trying to figure out on some stuff, that the relationship of what you call that, like Hawaiian legends and myths of Hi'iaka, Pele, Aila'au, and how these roles are pretty much similar to what Hawaiian legends and
People experienced.
yeah,
before,
people experienced back in the 1800s, 1700s, and prior, or later.
Yeah. So first, of course, if we all heard of the Iaka Ikapolio Pele and Pele and Lohiao and his story, and the version most people are familiar with is not such a Emerson translation, not such a big book. But then in 2006, the translation of the 1906 Ho'olu Mahiehie in the Hawaiian language newspaper was serialized, and in 2006, Puakea Nogelmeyer and others working with him made a very thorough translation, and I was rereading it, and it's really interesting because a very common remark you'll hear about this eruption, you'll hear people say, "Wow, we never saw that before."
Right.
Yeah. And so in the Hulihia chants, when Lohiao's getting his feet buried in Pahoehoe, and then his knees, and then his waist, and Ikaika's urging him to chant a forgiveness chant, but his deities are telling him, no, it's not the time, chant the Hulihia chant. So he's describing these very very varied and detailed and very poetical and very powerful descriptions of the dark smoke on the mountain and the white smoke to the seashore and the acrid smoke in the forest, and the coconut groves of Kapoho are no more, destroyed by fire, and the surging lava at Pu'ulena. It's like, wow, you know, not only has this been seen before, it's been carefully preserved and passed down over hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And as Ho'olumahiehie said in his introduction, we want to present this because Hawaiians of 1906 will want to know, and Hawaiians of 2006 will want to know. So I think one of the Hawaiian studies or language educators said right at the beginning of this eruption, now is the time to write it down.
Right.
Yeah, and hopefully a lot of people are. My sister Jody Fergerstrom sent me Bobby Kamara's blog from Volcano. Yeah, and so there's probably lots of people doing that, and then there's other people doing it the old way of just telling their friends, oh, I saw this, or oh, I heard about that, you know? And it gets passed on like that. My mom was Dr. McDonald's secretary at Hawaiian Volcano Observatory when the 1955 eruption came, and so she had invited her boss to her wedding, but then the earthquakes and eruptions started down here at Nana Valley Ranch, so he was down here, so he couldn't come to the wedding. And then it got bigger and, you know, went down the south side of Pu'ukapoho, and then later it went up Kīlauea,
Yeah.
and Opihikau Kamaili Road,
Yeah.
and then up Ileva, and made the big flow down to what's now Kalapana Seaview and Puna Palisades. So she got a call on her honeymoon if Dad and her would bring some supplies for the geologists in the field. You know, they'd get them a pass for the civil defense checkpoint. Sound familiar? So they came down, and so we grew up with this verbal version. You know, Mom driving us down to Kapoho and saying, oh, there's the line of the spatter cones on both sides of the road, and there's where the flow went. It didn't quite go to the ocean, and there's the steam cracks up by the highway to Kapoho. And later I was rereading Volcanoes in the Sea, the geology book about Hawaii that McDonald, Peterson, and Stearns last revised around 1983, I think. And there's a
It goes back 500-600 years, yeah.
Yeah, I found some more recent references. You know, when a place is really lush and green like Windward Puna, it doesn't take long, yeah, for it to look like it's been a really long time since it's been active volcanism. So, for example, Mom and Dad got married here, but because Dad's job, they moved to Oahu, where Dad's from, but with the resolve to come back when they could. So we came back when I was 4 or 5, and Mom took us driving. Kīlauea Iki was still all steamy. You know, it looked like it just happened. And drive down Kapoho. There's a big cinder cone from 1960 and a big barren black lava field all the way down to the lighthouse at Kumakahi at the intersection people call Four Corners. And driving down to Kalapana, only lichen out on the I'ilewa Kalapana Seaview flow. Just white, like looks like snow, the gray lichen. No trees yet. 30 years later, you know, in the 80s, you're down there at 30-foot tall trees. Now you drive down there, you can hardly tell where the flow starts. Yeah.
Over there,
Yeah. So, and then just in the last, seems like in the last 10 years, the part from where the Kapoho village was down to the Four Corners intersection went from being lava field to ironwood forest, deep ironwood forest. And the cinder cone went from cinder cone to cinder quarry pit, yeah. So some of the people were saying things like, when, for example, when they proposed the land exchange, one remark was, oh, well, that's like getting an upgrade. The people in, you know, Leilani, Lava Zone 1, they knew when they got there, so why should they get a place? And then they go, but down in Kapoho, no one had any idea that would happen.
Yeah.
It's like, well, there's 60 flow on one side and 55 flow on the other side. So maybe you had no idea because of the lushness and the greenness, but if you dig a little and listen to the stories or even read the geology book from mid-20th century, you would have known, yeah.
Wow. Jeez.
And that's not unsympathetic to people who are suffering. You know, my son's girlfriend is out at our house because the family's home in Leilani is isolated. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but it is what happens. We wouldn't even have a place to stand if it wasn't for Pele building layer upon layer, be treading water in 18,000 feet deep ocean. So that's the construction zone. People look at the destruction and it's a real thing, and even in the old chants you hear about destruction, even while people understand it's also construction and it's part of the life of the land, and the greenery will return back to the land afterwards.
And there's tons of stories similar of what's happening now, and those ones date from, you know, 1600s some.
Yeah.
And it speaks of it too.
Yeah, so that's a couple of things it'd be interesting to explore, you know. First is like the fact that there was this mention, you know, that's an important part of the story of this lower East Rift eruption that kind of accompanies the summit collapse of 500 years ago. That's kind of one thing I'd like to talk about. The other thing, which is just maybe first, is how it is construction and destruction. And a lot of the places that were treasured along the shore now haven't existed that long. The ones that we've lost
were recently created.
Were actually recently created. So you can tell us about what was there before that, maybe.
No,
or, you know,
I wasn't there. But I want to ask you guys who are from Puna, because I live in Ka'u and I grew up in Hilo. But I heard from somebody, and maybe you can refute or confirm, that in Ka'u, all our freshwater springs along the shoreline are cold, like in Hilo.
Yeah.
But the ones at Pohoiki and Ahalanui and Kapoho that are warm, somebody said that was after the 1955 eruption that they became warm.
That's what I heard too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got this treasure of a warm pond, which feels great on a cold and rainy day, but maybe it wasn't warm before, yeah?
Maybe.
And maybe you give it a little time, it won't be warm again as that underground magma reservoir chills
out.
down, or you know, I mean, not chills down,
where the cracks move and like the path of water changes.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, those guys at Hawaiian Volcano Observatory staff, they write that beautiful column, Volcano Watch. Did you see the one about a year and a half ago about Hilo's Hulana Kama'a Gulch? was
Oh.
a gulch with a stream. Means to hang up the sandals.
Oh yeah?
And it got that name because walking from Puna was all lava. And then when you got to this stream, the other side was all that
Lush.
dirt
Soil.
from airfall and ash turned to soil, yeah? And so people had to twist up the la'i kama'a and walk on the lava, but when they got to this stream, they just hung up the sandals in this ulu tree and waded across and went on with their feet. And the article said that it wasn't an all the time stream, but it was sometimes a strong enough stream that eventually they built a bridge over it because it was too much to cross when it was big. And eventually it was a big enough stream that the bridge was later washed away. And then in 1880 and 1881, when the Mauna Loa flow was coming into Hilo, and you read the old books, they'll say, reach the outskirts of Hilo. But the outskirts of Hilo then is well within what we call Hilo now. And for example, Imiloa Astronomy Center, Moho'uli Street are on that flow. It got within probably a mile of Waiakea Pond.
Wow.
Kept going, maybe we wouldn't have a Hilo Bay, just like we didn't have a Kapoho Bay. But it stopped. Ke'eli Kolani's famous visit, yeah. So when it got above the town, Kulana Kama'a stream dried up. It cut off the source. It has never run since. But when you go Kapi'olani Street on the Mauka side across from the police station, there's that depression full of vegetation.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's why Hualalai Street's at such an odd angle. It followed the side of the Gulf.
Wow.
They used to empty into Waiolama. So these guys are great up there. They don't only write technical science. They go dig in the Hawaiian language newspaper and look at the old maps and talk about geology. So I like acknowledge and credit the geologist at Volcano who his name
Don Swanson.
Don Swanson, thank you. He talked to the teachers about how when he was in college he went into literature because he loved all these epic poems of ancient Greece or England or wherever, I don't know. And somebody told him over here, hey, you ought to check out Pele and Hi'iaka. And he's like, whoa, this stuff's been chronicled. You go back and you find a big long easter flow, and then you find a big caldera collapse and Pele getting mad and throwing rocks. Explosive eruptions.
Yeah.
And based on the hints that our ancestors left in these legends, he's able to then go looking for stuff and say, okay, you know how they always used to tell us in school, Kīlauea is like a gentle drive-up volcano. Gently lava comes out, you can get up close and look. But then you find big gaps in the time period where there's none of that, or I shouldn't say that, very little of that. And during those periods, there's a lot of ash and a lot of rocks, layers. And then there's long periods where there's no ash and rocks, but lots of lava covering the countryside. And it switches back and forth, and it's done it 3-4 times.
That
And
we
he
know
said
of,
that's
yeah.
all he can go because you would have to get one deeper cross section.
Right.
That's the bottom of the Pali and the deepest part of the caldera when it was deeper than it is now, or the bottom of the Pali below Halape. But there's more. If it's switched back and forth, maybe it's been doing that forever. What makes it do that? I don't know.
That's interesting. Maybe we can talk in more detail about the actual sequence of the collapse of the caldera, right? Hi'iaka digging and digging through the different levels to the best of memory, of course, won't hold you.
So, did the Emerson one say digging?
Digging, I think that's when I've heard Don talk about it.
Yeah.
That's how he puts it.
And the Nogelmeyer, Ho'olu Mahiehie, translated by Nogelmeyer, it describes her looking for Lohiau's body as stamping through the levels. And there were numbers of levels and what she found in each one, and then finally having the ancestors at one level saying, stop. Where are you going? Let the water in and destroy the whole place.
Wow.
Yeah.
But do you remember how many levels there were, more or less? 5 to 7, somewhere in there? Maybe?
I would feel much better going back.
Going back and actually
Looking,
referencing it, yeah. But multiple levels, I mean, and you know, one thing that might correspond to is the levels. When we look at the picture of Palemaumo and Caldera today, we see various levels, like big pieces of blocks.
Steps on the side.
Steps, yeah, exactly. Like big, huge pieces of land that are falling, dropping in together that kind of resemble a giant step going from the deepest inner part and then farther up and farther up and farther up. That's one possible interpretation that I see. Another one would be the actual number of times the thing really pops and falls in big, right? You know, like one big stamp is one big, big collapse earthquake kind of thing. So I'm not sure which ways this should be taken. Possibly both. You know, usually with these legends, it's meant to be both, or multiple, more than two ways. Yeah.
And one level had all bug people, caterpillars, butterflies, moths, larvae, pupae, but they were like people.
Oh yeah?
And you know, it's like, what's that? It's like science fiction. But then, you know, when you go listen to an ecologist up at After Dark in the park, they'll talk about how the lava tubes have really unique ecosystems, and you got creatures that don't have eyes, and they're different from the one just a few miles away because it's a completely isolated system. But then too, you can look at it like it's a record, and it's a worldview of the gods and the goddesses. But it's a story like, you know, Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman, and you know, so she's doing all this amazing stuff, and it's just very human stuff, you know. She's like, where's my guy? That's not okay. And where's Hopoi? You know, how could you do this? So I don't know, it's finer minds and more culturally expert people then gonna weigh in on how much is like a great story meant to entertain and dazzle, and how much is, you know, commentary on the human nature, and how much is chronicle of what happened. Or maybe there's all of the above. Choice.
It's fascinating. Yeah? So I mean, history is repeating itself, right? Geology is repeating itself. Geology is repeating itself.
It reminds me of two famous sayings. One goes, "There's nothing new under the sun," means, you know, something happened. It happened before. You invented something. Somebody invented it before. Then the other one is a little less easy to roll off the tongue, but it says, even if 1,000 years should pass, it could never happen that one person wouldn't have something new to contribute.
Wow.
So, you know that pigeonism of same thing, only different?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's it. You know, it's kind of happened before, but not ever exactly like that. And the social circumstances are different. The technology available is different. The legal structure is different. So dealing with the same problem, people have an opportunity to make a new contribution.
Right. So, unreal. Anything more, Philip?
Yeah, you want to switch back? I actually got some photographs from Scott Wilson.
Just now?
Yeah, just now, from this evening. Let me go back to the start here. Hold on, let me get it lined up. Where's the first one? Here. So, pictures he took, just submitted from Scott Wilson at Aloha Skies Aviation. So this is, he actually got up there during the surge. Fisher 8.
Look like over here, this is the overflow.
This is the overflow from the other day, yeah.
Could burn a couple houses.
Yeah, yeah. So possibly up here, somewhere in this area in here, we'll have to have a Dane guys study this a little better and see which ones were actually there in the last photograph and not in this one to kind of see exactly where. But this looks like the prime candidate right here, this big overflow right there. And what you see in this photograph, even though a surge is happening, the channel is, you can't tell like how full it actually is, but you see how much red the thing is actually moving pretty good. It's not overflowing during this photograph, during the surge.
There's a little overflow there.
Yeah, a little one right there maybe. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a spot where it's probably moving the fastest.
Yeah.
When people see those videos from Leilani Avenue, they're looking down at this back edge and that kind of wave that splashes over
The
that.
curl.
Yeah, curls over that
Standing
edge
wave
right
with
there.
a
Yeah.
curl.
Yeah, so that's probably right in there, and so yeah, that's probably where it's splashing over. But his report is that there's not any other spillovers anywhere down the channel that you can see. Unless we can kind of go through the photographs and look. That one's a similar different angle. He sent a bunch, so maybe I'll have to go through every one so quick.
Still look like little overflows here. Yeah. This one here.
Yeah. So what angle is this? Yeah. Okay.
It's looking down.
Yeah. So this might be a little. Yeah. So
Yeah, this
Fisher
is the
8's
one
over here.
you were just talking about.
Yeah. So yeah, there is a little something, huh? I'm not sure
Yeah.
what's going on there. Yeah. These might be the
Well,
recent,
not really big overflows. Look
recent
like they're,
ones.
Yeah, look like those ones. You can tell there's some red to it.
That's a good backup for that daily reminder of do not access the flow field because it's extremely hazardous. Because anywhere people think they can go on there, and at any moment it can.
It'll spill over. Yeah. This is a section down by the curve. Or no, this is the top of the
that's
figure
only-
eight.
Yeah, that's where
Top of
we
figure
were.
eight.
Yep.
And here's the abandoned channel of the bottom part of figure eight right there.
So is this Haleo Kamahina?
Yeah.
And is this Kahulua o Kahavali?
Yeah. That is.
Yeah, so we'll keep moving and see what the next one shows us here.
This is looking down towards that's PGV.
Yeah, PGV. Yeah. And so on a webcam we saw those other overflows towards PGV.
Is this Pohuiki Road?
That was Highway 132.
The Y must be right up here, just off that image. So these might be actually the overflows from a couple nights ago that were the ones that went towards PGV, right through here. Do you see any red in there, or is that possibly old? This is the same area, because the webcam is somewhere in here looking off in this direction, so that probably caught some of these overflows down in here.
Oh wait, this is looking down.
Yeah, towards
towards.
Kapoho.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, I got it.
All right, next one.
Right,
Oh, yeah.
here's our bend. So here is kind of our ponding area. It looks to me like it's actually, I can see a little bit of rim down here, so it's not all the way full, right? It's not all the way full or spilling over. Here's a little bit of rim too. So there's extra space in there. But when he flew, the surge, was closer to Fisher 8. So it may actually be that it hadn't quite reached down here yet, so we'll have to kind of wait and see for that. But I think he's got some more pictures of farther down slope, which is something of great interest to all of us. So let me see if we can get to see those.
Still going up.
This is still up.
Looking up again. Looking
Up
down.
again, yeah. It's hard to get the perspective upside down.
Is that,
You wanna go back?
is that near? This is looking downhill.
Yeah.
So it's somewhere over here, Pu'ulena.
Kulena stay all the way up.
Well,
They're back,
much
yeah,
farther
on
up.
this side. So this is like Highway 132 right here. Right here, Highway 132 going down.
Okay.
Going down to Kapoho.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see if we can get that view looking down towards Pohoiki is what I'd like to see. Okay, so this is up to the top.
They're going down.
I don't know, I guess that's the best we have, yeah. So let me go back to that one image that we were looking at. There might be more. I might have to look on my phone to see if that other one comes through.
Could you back up one, please? So is Ho'okupu and Malama over here?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, and this is a little hill with Victor's house, huh?
Yep.
Well, we broadcast, so it's been 2 months ago now.
Okay. Next one.
But yeah, let's find that one that shows that bottom part of the flow the most right here.
Right there.
Yeah, so we can't see much farther on in here, but we can see that the channel is actually has lava in it. for sure. You know, more than the little previous image of this that we were looking at. But it's only well established to somewhere in here by the looks of it.
So if it breaks out and goes over here, does it go all the way down parallel to and then come in at the park?
Yeah, it would basically come along the edge of this thing. This thing becomes like a barrier, like, you know, yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a new valley along the edge of this flow, essentially, that would channel this towards the boat ramp as well. So we don't want it to break out on this side over here either, or to go down here and spread out further to the south either.
So it's actually it's spreading down past couple.
But yeah, so the flow is being fed there, and that, you know, the surge maybe is getting down there still, and then tonight it'll probably spread out a little bit more. And it's a question of which way is it going to spread out. Is it going to be towards or away from what we care about?
Yeah. The remnant of Pu'ulaimana.
Yeah.
And how tall is it now? And I forget how tall it was when it was new.
You know, that cinder pit is kind of going down, so it's not that very tall anymore.
But some of the guys are like, guys filming from up on there sometimes.
Yeah. I think it's like maybe 80 feet. So.
And was there another either pu'u or dug away pu'u quarry right around here someplace? You know, when you come down the curve into the forest on the right, on the topo map, it said borrow pit, and borrow and no return.
Maybe, I'm not too sure, you know.
Right, here's the last picture that just came in. So this shows the area down by Pohoriki. So we still have a plume. Lava is still going in the ocean. It's maybe not as big as it was before, but it's still moving through the middle of this big pat down by the ocean. At the moment, this margin looks like it's not advancing, but this is the area where it's likely to spread out again, so we'll have to wait and see what happens down there.
And it's just a bypass for the sunken road.
Yeah.
Because there's still a whole lot of lava still getting fed towards
exactly,
the ocean entry. So.
Even during these lows that we're describing, you know, like the lowest amount of lava coming out is still gigantic.
It's still
enough to spread out and cause a lot of
damage.
And
then cover a lot of area. So yeah, just because we've seen the lava river is a little bit lower, still there's so much lava.
Exactly. Yeah, even if it's down halfway from, you know, somewhere like 12 million cubic meters a day, that's still 6 million cubic meters a day, which is a massive, massive, massive amount. You know, and that would be an extreme liberal judgment of how much it might have actually dropped. So I'm not saying that's, I'm just putting out there, you know. It could drop a lot and still be really, really pumping. So, yeah, that's the photo update. I want to mention too, Ikaika, put up their fundraiser. I don't know if you want to, something you might be talking about right now?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, so one of the things that's been going on is the Hawaii Tracker Group has been really pulling all the resources together to have a core team that includes myself and Ryan Finley and Dane DuPont. And we're starting a fundraising campaign. We know that people here in Puna are really suffering, so we don't want to ask for anyone locally, but if anyone on the mainland or farther away wants to kind of help support the work that we're doing, these guys could really use some financial support to kind of keep the updates coming and keep vetting things and making sure everything's fact-check and do all that, you know, at least for the length of however long this eruption drags out, So I really encourage you guys, if you can, you know, or tell your friends at the mainland, or if you're in a position to support, you know, I'd really appreciate it. Go check out the post on Hawaii Tracker, and yeah, we'll share that as well later on. So thanks you guys for considering that.
So let me reiterate. So I'm going to tell everybody on behalf of my live feed. So Philip's been coming to the hub almost on a daily basis and doing whatever he can to notify and update our community. And he lives in Volcano area. He comes down here. He has 2 kids, he comes down there every day. Sometimes it stays down in at the hub into the early morning hours, and comes back in the morning to also make sure that people are getting updated and people are getting their information correct to make the proper you know, evacuation plans or anything like that. Or so he's been doing this for, what is that, two months, almost 3.
From the first day of the hub, I've been on here.
Yeah, from the first day of the hub. So that was created in May 5th.
The second week of eruption, the first day of the hub.
Yeah, so the second day of the eruption. So he's been down here helping myself and the hub here to notify everybody, and he's been doing it for free for the whole time. But you know, so we're gonna try to set up a GoFundMe or something like that, or something that nature to help fill up go through what he's doing. So other than that, yeah, go check him out.
Yeah, I couldn't do it without Ryan and Dane. Yeah, just kind of reiterate that. And night, yeah, with an easy donation thing, you can donate as little as like $5 or whatever, you know what I mean? So thank you guys, appreciate it, Ikaika.
Right. So, you have anything to say, man?
Thank you for inviting me to come to Puna.
Oh,
Ka'u is
and-
with you guys.
all right. Thanks, Kiko. This is Kiko, and he's so educated with a lot of the Hawaiian history too.
Yeah,
Stop it!
you know, we should talk about what Kiko does, you know? Like,
He also does he sells Hawaiian canoe, Hawaiian style.
Yeah, we have a Wa'akaulua, a Hawaiian double hull canoe at Kanuku o Kamano, the sand spit at the mouth of the Wailoa River, where Hi'iaka and Wahine Oma'o crossed, and we do historical sailing trips and educational trips with school groups, and some friends donated a website, so it's got some sailing canoe videos and
Right on.
pictures and that kind of stuff.
Right on, guys.
it's awesome. You guys should all go out with Captain Kiko. It's awesome.
In fact, that's how I met Philip.
Yeah, yeah.
Philip hired me. Geology guide, that's how I met you, right?
All right. Thanks for going.
That's right, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
Out in
Kalapana.
Kapa'ahu.
Yeah, Kapau. All right, guys. So,
Well, hello everybody, and stay tuned. We'll be having more updates. I will have updates of the ocean entry tomorrow morning, and some video from Pohoiki. And so everybody, without further ado, we'd like to say everybody good night and stay classy, Puna. Aloha.